Hey, what is going on, freedom fighters? Welcome back to another Break the Chains media live stream. Today is Monday, September 22nd, 2025. I am your host, Corey, and we are going to be getting into just like the overview of the last few days, whether it was Jimmy Kimmel and this whole conversation about the FCC and the free speech. Apparently, he's coming back tomorrow night. It's only a temporary suspension, so we're going to get into all the Jimmy Kimmel news and the conversation regarding what you can say and what you can't say, and when it comes down to separating the conversation of what is free speech and what we can speak, the right to free speech, and being contractually obligated and being ran through a FCC broadcast media company that is controlled airspace. So we'll have that whole conversation. We are going to also talk about on the broader context of what it means for actual free speech here in America, what we can say, and how this whole conversation with Pam Bondi and her like incitement to violence and this gray line that the DOJ is talking about as far as free speech and where I'm standing on, my 2 cents of free speech. The fact that you can say whatever the fuck you want should be whatever, like that's end of the day. But it also comes with, I don't want to say comes with consequence, because you can't say, I think actions have consequences, but words, you can say whatever the hell you want. That's how I stand. But we're going to get into all that after the breakdown here in the beginning. I do want to also bring up the conversation with our Colorado Congressperson Jeff Hurd and his failure to censure Ilhan Omar and her vile comments in our state capitol. So we're going to call out Jeff Hurd being the criminal, like the weak, spineless, and typical rhino and useless GOP representative in our federal representative office. So we're going to call out Jeff Hurd for that. We are also going to talk about our state representative, Lorena Garcia from HD 35, and her little scummy Antifa rhetoric and Antifa. She's self-identified, calling herself Antifa. She identifies as Antifa, and the fact that we're dealing with a new type of America after Charlie Kirk's untimely demise. So with all that being said, folks, we are going to get into a lot of it today. We're going to get a lot of conversations today. And some of it's going to be Colorado news. Some of it's going to be in national news. And just these broader conversations of what it means to have the federal government classify your domestic terrorists or these extremist groups, and what it really means as far as the linguistics, the language, and what the extent is, and what we should be seeing, and what we should see from a government perspective, from a citizen's perspective, and someone who is overtly anti-big government, weaponization of the government, weaponization of the Department of Justice, and using this, I guess, a heavy-handed approach in their tactics. I am against that. However, when it comes down to it, and you call a spade, you see it for what it is, and you see the year-over-year abuses that these groups in broad daylight, in public, have been doing to destroy the fabric of our constitutional republic, and how these leftists have infiltrated not just these radical extremist cells, but up to upper echelons of elected officials and elected office, and how they run in with these NGOs, and how they run in with all of these programmed and planned protests, and how they justify, how they validate when they call someone a fascist or a Nazi, and then they call themselves Antifa. They are in their little self-world delusion land, justifying their extremist approach. So we're going to get into all that here in this live stream. Hey, what's going on, Merlin Marvel? How are you doing? Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for being on Rumble, too. Shout out to the Rumble live streamers. Appreciate you, Merlin Marvel. Thank you for jumping in. But we're going to get into all the news and all the breakdowns here today. If this is the first time joining Break the Chains Media, give me a thumbs up, give me a follow. Welcome to the Chain Gang. I guess that we could call it that. I don't know if you want to be called the Chain Gang, but here we are. We're hanging out, having a good time here. And I do local news, whether it's the state of Colorado, Denver, Metro, Colorado politics, but I also get into national news, bigger news, conversations about the current culture. Whether it's pop culture, talking about news and just the daily days, but we're also getting a lot of politics and just how we build a better society, how we build a better future for all of us, because that's really what we want at the end of the day. We have to have this open conversation, this open discourse, and over the last week and a half, we obviously see how some extremists want to perpetuate their delusion and their lies by assassinating the man willing to have an open conversation. But I'm going to continue having that conversation. I'm going to be the one continuing that, along with millions of other people. I don't know if we all saw the remembrance of Charlie Kirk yesterday. That was a great thing, but we're not going to get too much into that. But we can. We'll pepper it in. We'll dabble. But let me get done with this intro, okay? If you guys enjoy this kind of conversation, share this with the friends and family. Share this with everyone you know. You can also find me. BreakTheChains.media is the website. BreakTheChains.media. You can find the landing page here. Live streams on Rumble. I also have all the other socials here. Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Check it all out here. I've got articles, a little outdated articles, but I did update the website. I got some newer stuff here. But I'm working on a couple new articles that is going to add to the blog chain, as it were. And if you want to support the channel, the shameless plug, Realm Walker Hot Sauce at the drop-down menu here. Locally made, locally grown, handmade hot sauce here in Colorado. It's all the flavors from travel the 9 realms of Norse mythology through hot sauce. I've got mild sauce all the way to extreme heat, Carolina Reapers, ghost peppers, dragon's breath, you name it. It's all listed here. Realm Walker hot sauce, great fermented pepper hot sauce, small batch, limited quality. If you are interested, you can follow Realm Walker hot sauce on Instagram or follow Break the Chains Media, get in contact with me, and you can find your hot sauce there. But we are going to jump into it right here, right now, folks. Thanks for hanging out. Hit that thumbs up button, and let's get it going. These are some traitors here, folks. These are traitors. These are scumbags who stood up against. These are the people against. Let me find the original post here. Where are they? Oh, wait. Let me boop, and then we'll go boop. Okay. Here are the 4 weak Republicans who joined the Democrats to protect Ilhan Omar from being censured and stripping of her committee assignments. She mocked Charlie Kirk's assassination, right? I am in the mouth of the beast. Merlin Marvel. Colorado is a sleeper. For anyone who is not fully aware, Colorado, I would consider, so California, everyone knows California has been compromised by communists, right? For a very long time, arguably since the late 90s, early 2000s, California's been compromised. And then a lot of the Colorado, natives like myself, we've all said in a jokingly way, Colorado's 5 to 10 years behind California. Well, Colorado is arguably one of the worst, and it's like a assassin. It's like a sleeper. It's like a sniper sitting 200 meters away. No one really talks about it, even in the mainstream media. Everyone talks over Colorado, talks over Denver politics. But I'm telling you right now, Denver is one of the front lines. There is outspoken. We're going to get into it in a little bit. But I have got Colorado state representatives right now that are funded and work with the Democrat Socialists of America, the DSA, the PSL. I've got it all pulled up here. I've got the Antifa militants. I've got this hate map. I've got so much covering of these extremists. Westward, that's a whole side topics. But the laws in Colorado are insane, Merlin Marvel. And dude, I've been going to the Capitol. I've been trying to testify against this. But we're gonna get into the nitty gritty and the grossness that is the Colorado legislature. But from a federal perspective, Jeff Hurd got basically shoehorned into his position because Lauren Boebert switched districts. So Jeff Hurd kind of filled her vacancy through the GOP process. And then so when Lauren Boebert switched out of CO3 to I think CO4 or CO6, correct? I might not be. I don't know. I can't remember exactly the district she's currently in, but she was in CO3, Eagle County, this whole area. But Jeff Hurd, and I wanted to bring up what Jeff Hurd had to say because of his reasoning as to why he did not vote to censure Ilhan Omar. Okay, listen to this punk ass. Jeff Hurd on X. Ilhan Omar's comments about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, as well as her comments about those who support Charlie, are ghoulish and evil. I condemn them completely. Now he's backing up his statement, right? But I voted against today's censure because it tried to strip another member of Congress from committees and to silence her from exercising the First Amendment right to free speech. The right response to reprehensible speech like this isn't silencing, it's more speech. That's what Charlie Kirk believed and practiced, and I agree. You are fundamentally flawed, Jeff Hurd. Do you not understand that when you are appointed committee positions in the state legislature, in federal legislatures, when you get committee assignments and appointments, these people can promote and support various legislation that gets streamlined through the process of legislation, and their committee appointment gets to pass or fail very crucial legislation. So if she retains her committee appointment, she retains her radical mindset in appointing and approving legislation that America and her constituents, well, correction, her constituents probably do want it because she represents Somalis, but America as a whole probably doesn't really stand for some of these committee approvals or denials that she sits on the board for. So this is what we have to address. This is where we have to come from, right? And I said right here, we should censor the insurgent because she does not stand for American values. She stands for her Somali constituents that basically propel her to a position of power through her little enclave of the Somali migrants that she represents in Minnesota. Ilhan Omar should not have a seated appointment for a committee. Absolutely. And that's kind of where I'm standing, Merlin Marvel. I understand his logic behind we need to have more free speech to combat bad speech, 100%. But when we're talking about a position of elected office, of committee members, and then having her to not censure is one of the most powerful forms to retain a sense of stability when it comes to this form of holding our elected officials accountable, right? If we don't like what they're speaking and how they're representing their constituents or how they're representing their position in elected office, that is how we punish them as elected members. Get them off the committee, put someone else in who would actually be an appointed position. Jeff Hurd did a weak job. He's a weak representative from my perspective as a Colorado native, as a Colorado resident. Even though he's not in my district, I condemn his failure to censure the Somali insurgent Ilhan Omar. That's my 2 cents. And that's my free speech. Take it or leave it. Yep. There it is. She is 100% interested in others not of our country. She is an emissary for Somali refugees. Simple as that. Okay? I can stand here longer, but yeah, Jeff Hurd's a weak man, and he should be called out for what it is. So all these are not just Jeff, not just Senator Hurd. I'm sorry, Congressman. He's not a senator. Jeff Hurd should be called out, but all 4 of these should be called out. All 4 of them. Okay? Representative McClintock, U.S. Rep. Mike Flood, and Jeff Hurd, and Representative Mills. Okay? All of them, call them all out. They're all failures. Failure to censure. Okay? Moving right along. And I posted this on the 18th. Cancel culture is not the same as consequence culture. That one got a lot of traction. Ben Stiller, and now we're gonna funnel into Jimmy Kimmel, folks. If you enjoy this, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs up and a follow. I do live streams Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights. Tyranny Response Tuesdays on Tuesday. Wednesdays. We are Change Wednesdays, but basically full breakdowns, and we're talking about all the stuff, whether it's local news. I always try to pepper in some local stuff with some national news, and we'll bounce back and forth. I mean, we are trying to return to normalcy, as it were, in a post-Kirk world, in a post-Kirk America. And it is difficult because Charlie Kirk is definitely still on everyone's mind, a lot of people's minds. And he had a great remembrance rally yesterday. I'm actually going to use this right now just to have a little moment, a little beat, as it were. Let me see here. Let me pull this up. We'll pull this up and we'll have a conversation, a quick 2-minute segue into about Charlie Kirk and what happened yesterday. I hope that shows up all right. Not really. Let me zoom out a little bit. Maybe that'll work. Nope. Just kidding. Hold on. Too big, too small. Right there is fine. Okay, listen, folks. Check it out. Charlie Kirk's send-off yesterday at the Cardinals Arena Bowl, whatever it's called. I mean, what was there? 160,000 people there. Then upwards of 100 million people. 100 million people watching the stream across the different platforms. I mean, the dude is being remembered across the world, internationally. He has a voice that is continuing on past his mortal form. Okay. I've been popping Kimmel's joke on X about letting unvaccinated people die. Yeah. And I called Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel is a media cuccubus. And the word cuccubus is a beautiful word to describe what Jimmy Kimmel is, particularly in the realm of media. The fact that this man suckles the teeth, and does anything that the mainstream media would project him to be. So you think back on the days of him being on the Man Show with Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla is an absolute boss, an absolute legend, still based as fuck to this day. Shout out to Adam Carolla. But Jimmy Kimmel just followed in his coattails, just followed anything. He was the bitch of the Man Show, right? And then he gets his big break with Jimmy Kimmel Live. And then he became this huge leftist pulpit, this leftist mouthpiece for anything and everything that the leftist media would want, right? Through ABC, through Disney, gets away with a hell of a lot. We're going to get into all that in just a minute, but Jimmy Kimmel is a media cuccubus. Thumbs up in the chat if you agree. See, I knew Merlin would agree with that. But yeah, Charlie Kirk and the whole yesterday's send-off, what a beautiful and very, very powerful time, because, and the fact that Erica Kirk, basically, she said she forgives the shooter. I mean, that is a bold statement to say. So still in mourning of losing her husband, she forgave the shooter, right? And to be in this era, to be in this state, we are in a post-Kirk America. We have to keep the ball rolling. We have to keep the fight alive. We have to stand up, hold the microphone, not the bloodstained microphone like Ben Shapiro was talking about, but the holding the torch. That is the microphone, right? The Smith-Mundt Act desperately needs to be removed and enacted. Removed and enacted. Yes, it was installed or no. We're going to get into all this because right now I'm calling for a McCarthyism 2.0. I've been calling for it for a very long time. McCarthyism 2.0 in America has to take place right now. Call out the communists. Call out the Marxists. Get rid of this mockingbird, this mainstream mockingbird media. Get rid of this propaganda push. The Smith-Mundt Act. Yeah, I know. I see what you're talking about. I totally get what you're saying. The Smith-Mundt Act. Get rid of it, because it's all propaganda. Okay, McCarthyism 2.0. These communists, these leftists are all everywhere. They're infected this entire media apparatus. But and that ties right in with the free speech. Right? Free speech, and I'm not going to say it's not free of consequence, because actions have consequences. Words do not. Words can be combated with other words, right? Like Jeff Hurd said, in a very sliver value of what Jeff Hurd said is free speech needs to be combated with more free speech. I 100% agree. But Actions have consequences, right? Free speech should not. The speaking and the conversation that Charlie Kirk had, okay? Charlie Kirk never spoke a word of hate speech. What he spoke was speech that the left hated. And their hate killed him for it. I don't know. It's kind of wordy, but I'm going to try to work with that a little bit, but we're going to get into the Jimmy Kimmel, okay? Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, they're all lining up. But do you forget Gina Carano and Roseanne, you know? And those are just a couple examples. There's many more, okay? Suddenly these leftists are barking about free speech and what they can and can't say, okay? Jimmy Kimmel set to return to ABC after backlash, but won't apologize for Charlie Kirk's comments. What is this? Is this an ad? Like, hold on, let me refresh this. See if there's actually a video. We'll see. See if we'll actually be able to play it. Probably not. But
Mr. President, everyone's saying that Charlie brought you and Elon back together. Is that true?
Well, Elon came over and said hello. No, it's nothing to do with that. So, I thought it was nice. He came over.
Totally different, but let's keep reading. Jimmy Kimmel will be back on the air Tuesday because it was only a suspension. So he was not fired. It was only suspension, renegotiating term. But he won't be apologizing for his false claim last week that Charlie Kirk's alleged killer was part of the MAGA gang, which by now is a fundamental lie. It is 100% and this is the thing. When everyone's barking about free speech, Jimmy Kimmel does not have the free speech under his ABC contract and being aired on terrestrial TV broadcasts through the FCC's regulation to have freedom of speech to say whatever he wants, even in his wider breadth of being a quote-unquote comedian. Just because he's not funny doesn't mean that he can get away with anything. His flat landing jokes do not absolve him of of consequence of speaking under a contractual agreement with his provided business contracts as a company through ABC, and then on not only that, through his subsidiaries, Sinclair and Nexar. Okay, all of this has to, if anyone was out there objectively lying about something, you're damn well right that not only the FCC but these companies have a rightful reason to say, hey, wait a minute, hold the phone. What you said is actually incorrect. Like, if Jimmy Kimmel were to come out, not just Jimmy Kimmel, you name it, whether it was a news affiliate or let's take news out of it. Let's just say it's another late night host, right? Not even Jimmy Kimmel. Okay? If he were to come out and say that Donald Trump is going to take everyone's car away, and we have to make sure that, the rights of Donald Trump is abusing his power because it's a fundamental lie. What he said about the shooter was a fundamental lie. Okay? Kimmel will address the controversy during his monologue on Tuesday, though he will stop short of apologizing. So I don't know what they agreed with. It's not clear whether ABC or two biggest stations owners will carry the program after they push to yank him from the airwaves for the September 15th comment. The Sinclair Broadcast Group, which owns dozens of ABC affiliates, had publicly demanded Kimmel apologize to Kirk's family and pledged a donation to Turning Point USA to the activist group Kirk founded. The company signaled it could preempt the program if those conditions were not met. So even though Kimmel is set to return through ABC, these affiliates, the Sinclair Broadcast Group of ABC affiliates, might not bring him back. Okay? The company signaled it could preempt the program if those conditions were not met. Nexstar Media Group also threatened to pull the shows unless Disney acted. Andrew Colvett, chief spokesperson for Turning Point USA, wrote on X, Disney and ABC caving and allowing Kimmel back on the air is not surprising, but it's their mistake to make. Nexstar and Sinclair do not have to make the same choice. So ABC made this decision to bring Kimmel back, but now it's down to Nexstar and Sinclair. Okay? Kim-witted. That's interesting. That's interesting phrasing to that. In a statement on Monday, Disney said it suspended Kimmel last Wednesday to avoid, quote, to avoid further inflaming a tense situation and emotional moment for our country, calling some of his comments ill-timed and thus insensitive. Yeah, well, Kimmel's also a scumbag. Like I said earlier, he's a media cuckubus, and he will say whatever is going to incite the most reaction from his fan base. And his fan base are radical leftists and the media darlings who love the left-wing pulpited media and this propaganda. Merlin Marvel on Rumble live chat says, I think they did that just to be able to scream about Trump being a fascist. Now there's no USAID laundering money and they're struggling to afford their globalist puppets. I think you're absolutely right. This is the bigger narrative, and this is actually my part 2 of today, because I have articles here. Where is it at? I have this and it's a three-step process, right? You have the U.S. aid money, you have media propaganda pulpiting this, but not only that, you also have this money funding through leftist, communist, Marxist, like all socialism, Marxism, communism, radical extremism, anti-fasciste. These anti-fascist groups are all networked together in their different. They all have different avenues of operation in this information war, in this culture war, in this societal war that we're facing right now. The left wing has different enclaves, different factions, different beachheads. Whether it's in media, whether it's in activist groups, whether it's in political organizations, whether it's NGOs, these non-government organizations that fund political campaigns, that put these people into elected offices to then write the bills, to pass the legislation, to further curtail our free speech, to further curtail our Second Amendment rights, to further enact their communist utopia, as it were. Okay? Mike Benn's lectures are incredible to understand what they're doing. Yes, it is a liberal octopus. It is a kraken of evil that they are entrenched in. I have these I'm going to be bringing up later, but I want to. I start about the conversation about Jimmy Kimmel because we're talking about the national news, right? This is national news talking about the free speech and what we can and can't say on media and having these media pulpits. And folks, don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I do see the big picture, that when you start looking at government organizations suspending and curtailing the quote-unquote comedian. Well, folks, Jimmy Kimmel's joke it wasn't a comedic joke. He was not making a joke about the shooter being, one of their own. He said it as a matter of fact. He said it as the MAGA and all their group are trying to do all they can to make sure that the shooter, to try to steer away that he was one of their own. That was what he said. He wasn't making a joke about it. He was saying it as a matter of fact in his statement. And then not only that, the whole monologue that got him thrown off or suspended was terrible. It wasn't even a joke. It was literally just left-wing propaganda. But listen, folks, where is it at? Do I have it over here? See this? V for Vendetta, okay? V for Vendetta is one of my favorite all-time movies, okay? And I remember in that movie when the authoritarian, the supreme leader of the party, when the I wish I had the scene pulled up, but it's the actually, let's see if I could just do it right now. Hold on. How do I write that? It's the segment where the comedian makes a joke about V, about Let me find it. Hold on, fuck. Now I have to find it. That's not what I want. Back up. YouTube, V for Vendetta. Late night comedy bit. I don't know how else to fucking write it, dude. Gordon's special guest. Yeah, cool. Perfect. All right.
Listen, we've got an extraordinary show for you tonight. You're not going to believe it. As a matter of fact, I don't think I do. Would you please give a very warm welcome to our own Chancellor, Adam Sutler?
Why is it stretched and why does it look like potato?
No.
Why?
Hold on. Gordon's special guest. I'm gonna get Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. That's fine. We'll just keep playing it. It's gonna look like a potato, sorry. But so do you remember this in V for Vendetta?
I understand you.
Where it's a late night comedy host talking about the terrorist V for Vendetta and making a lighthearted joke about the terrorist not being able to elude the Supreme Chancellor, right? We're living in this time right now. Like when you think about the narrative of Jimmy Kimmel being taken down. However, Jimmy Kimmel is doing quite literally the opposite of what this skit is, right? And the leftists will cry. The leftists will cry that this is fascism. Fascism is taking down the comedian. Did you not hear it, right? No. What happened was the FCC and the media broadcaster said, you can't spread lies on my fucking TV show. You can't spread lies across the airwaves. And I don't want my advertisers to get called out, to call me and say, I don't want my ad broadcasting on your show when you're spreading fundamental mischaracterized lies about an assassination that took place less than a week ago. Okay? This scene in V for Vendetta was calling out the objective truth that the government is the one. See? And people are laughing. It's actually people making it's a joke to people.
I order you to shoot that traitor! Liar! Faker! Fraud! Ready! Aim! Fire!
What kind of world are we living in when satire becomes reality? He still gets away, right? Okay, so that's that's the world we're living in right now, folks. And I'm just trying to bring it home, bring it to this point of when we're seeing instances from fictional movies take place in real life, not to the same extent. And I'm definitely not defending Kimmel, because what happened to Gordon in V for Vendetta was he was literally taken by the squad at night and beaten and taken by the government. That is a whole nother narrative. What's happening in our world today is completely different. Jimmy Kimmel is not being black-bagged and thrown into in an APC in the middle of the night. That's not happening, folks. What happened to Jimmy Kimmel is rightfully, arguably deserved, because Jimmy Kimmel did not have free speech. Okay, we're moving right along. I'm blabbing on way too much about this. Okay, I was going to pull up this whole article. Long story short, I think I've already made my point when it comes to Jimmy Kimmel was under contract with ABC Disney to be able to say some things but not all things. And when he brings out things as matter of fact against an ongoing case with the FBI, that's a conflict of interest when he's actively spreading false information. Okay? So we're moving right along. And I was going to talk about this very quickly, tying it in with current Colorado news. Fox 31 owner is buying 9 News parent company. CEO credits Trump. This was written a little over a month ago. But talking about how, because we're talking about the Sinclair Group, we're talking about Nexstar. Nexstar Media Group, parent company of Denver Fox affiliate, TV station KDVR announces that it reached an agreement early Tuesday, August 19th, to acquire Tenga Incorporated, the parent company of longtime marketing leader 9 News, for a massive $6.2 billion sale. So we are seeing a consolidation of the media conglomerate groups, whether it's Nexstar, Sinclair. This Tenga group is probably a smaller subsidiary that's being absorbed. But we're seeing the mainstream media trying to scramble to hold their power to the narrative, right? And this the Smith-Mundt Act goes right in hand with all this. Talk about Operation Mockingbird Media, right? Merlin Marvel on Rumble says, I don't believe so. I think his masters told him what to say. Disney and ABC are not good corporations. They are owned. Oh, no. I agree with that. However, you can only get away with so much, right? So when Gina Carano, right, when Gina Carano gets canceled and gets kicked off of a Disney show for her opinions, when Gina Carano says a very opinionated point on X and loses her job, not just suspended, but totally loses her job, that is a Disney decision, right? They don't want that type of information. They don't want that type of person to be affiliated with, right? But because I think particularly ABC is reading the tea leaves, or reading the room, and says, "Oh man, while I stand with Jimmy," and this makes sense because they didn't fire him, they just suspended him. They just said here's a little slap on the wrist, we'll give you your job back, right? But now that Jimmy's coming back, we'll see what happens tomorrow night. We'll see what happens tomorrow night, what his response is tomorrow night. He says he's not going to issue an apology, but this is the level of in which the hypocrisy in which that we're living in right now, right? Throw them under the bus if they get flack for it. They're giving a little extra leash, right? Okay. But the media apparatus is dying. Companies are being absorbed. Companies are being absorbed into other larger groups and all larger companies, which means we're going to be seeing the same type of narrative, right? We'll be seeing the same blanketed narrative being pulpited by the Mockingbird media, and as long as we have people like myself, people like Mike Benz, people like Tim Cass, independent media, Benny Johnson, even the Jimmy Dore, people that can have a reasonable take in an unreasonable world, right? We need to have reasonable, sound-minded conversations, free speech, right here for all of us to have. Thumbs up in the chat if you agree. Follow the channel if you agree. Break the Chains M on X. I post all the fucking time. Shout out. But this is the kind of future that we see, right? Having conversations like this across America and across the world. We can have this conversation. We can have this debate. We can remove the Mockingbird media entirely. We don't need to be paid off. We don't need to be paid shills for any agenda or any identitarian purposes. We have the conversation. We have the power. We can take it back. That is our job here right now. Independent media taking the lead. Plug and play, live stream. Let's fucking go. Shout out to everyone following and everyone in the chat right now. Appreciate everyone here. Okay? But this is what's happening, right? And this is why I call for, do I even have it here? Yeah, that was, ESPN polls announcer. Yeah. Look, this is the cancel culture that they're talking about, right? Look at this shit. Okay? Years ago, 2018, ESPN pulls announcer Robert Lee from Virginia game because of his name. That's the kind of mental gymnastics Disney has to logically stand behind, because Disney owned ESPN. But, they pulled the announcer's Robert Lee because of his fucking name. Okay? That's a whole nother conversation. This bitch is just stupid. I'm just gonna say
I understood what was kind of.
Since we're talking about free speech, I'm gonna let her talk. I'm gonna let her talk here.
I understood what was kind of pushing them there, and so I do want people to know that just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal.
Did you hear that? Yes, brilliant. So insightful. just because someone committed a crime doesn't make them a criminal. Are you absolutely, how stupid are you? She's very stupid, actually. Very stupid.
That is completely different. Being a criminal is more so about your mindset. Committing a crime can come for a lot of different reasons. I understood.
Yeah. So in that mindset, any law that's passed unconstitutionally would be quote unquote committing a crime, right? So if I happen to say own a 30-round magazine, even though in the state of Colorado it is illegal to own said 30-round magazine, does that makes me a criminal, or does that mean I'm a crime? Knowingly committing a crime, but that doesn't make me a criminal? Where's her logic in this? This is all hypothetical, mind you. I'm not admitting by any state of measure that I have a 30-round magazine. I just know that in the state of Colorado, it is illegal to have a 30-round magazine in your possession because they wrote a law that says you can't have a 30-round magazine. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? But see, this idiot is so stupid. She doesn't realize that criminals break laws because they think, because they're self-inflicted, their self-interest, right? They are criminals. They commit crimes because they're criminals. That's how you get the name, the root cause. What a fucking idiot. Jesus. These people are in office, folks. Vote them out. Well, Texas just redistricted. So I think she actually got out of she's not in the district anymore because they redistricted her out of a district, I believe. But I don't know. I'm not from Texas. I'm from Colorado. But, all right, let's listen here. We're going to the Antifa conversation now, folks. We're going to the Antifa conversation. Thumbs up in the chat. We're going to get hot and heavy in this. Using a Westword article about 30 extremist groups. We're going to be talking about prior Antifa militant operations from years ago, trying to validate. I am not trying to validate the Justice Department claiming them being domestic terrorists. I am trying to show to you that these people, that the people involved are extremists, are radicals. They want to destroy Western society. They are having active calls. They're calculated attacks in destroying what they always say is a threat to democracy. They are an abject threat to democracy with how they operate within their terror cells, within their extremist networks, within their collective mindset of no justice, no peace, like no nothing, like burn it all down mentality. So we're going to get into all that here, folks, and we're going to talk about the New Tolerant campaign, which I just stumbled upon a few days ago, but this actually looks relatively reasonable. It's kind of like an ADL, but not as ridiculous. They're actually calling out the ADL, but we'll get into all that in a minute. But let me see here. It was right here. But let me preface this. Let me get into it for you. Antifa has been building networks and cells all over America and around the world. I mean, there's anti-fasciste groups in France, Germany, UK. It's particularly ironically, it's all westernized countries. It's very strange how that works, right? You get westernized countries who spout this. They have this grandiose worldview, and then you get radicals with purple hair and transgender and wanting to kill babies, abortion, and all these first world problems, and then they start rallying together in these radical terror cells that want to destroy the very fabric in which gave them the opportunity to start worrying about first world problems. Do you see this weird full circle of idiocracy that we're living? These people blame the system in which gave them the opportunity to stand and complain about said system. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Thumbs up in the chat. Let me know what you think in the chat, because I think that makes sense to me, right? This system gave them the opportunity to complain about the system in which they complain, in which they quote unquote, hate. Antifa has been building networks and cells all over America and around the world. They want to actively participate in a violent uprising and destruction of Western society. They label everything as fascist to justify them targeting and destroying anything they want. Antifa is a threat and always has been a threat, and whether the government labels them a domestic terror threat or not is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The fact is that they have been and always will be an objective threat to wherever they lay foot. They objectively destroy anything that they set their intended goal against. Okay? I posted this. I posted this for the memes. I posted this for the funnies because, folks, we are in a spiritual war. Give me a fucking thumbs up in the chat for that. We are in a spiritual war. Make no mistake. Best to stack the deck in your favor. And if you guys ever play MMORPGs or any type of role-playing game, RPG game, you always want to, especially now, we want to get the firearms that at least have 10% holy damage, because we are fighting against demons, folks. We are fighting against the evil and demons. Okay, that's it, dude. I firmly believe we are in a spiritual. Like I wouldn't say that I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I believe in the Creator, the divine essence. I wouldn't say I'm a book Christian, but from after what we've seen the last week and a half, 2 weeks, particularly, arguably the last few years, but it's been condensed very well in these last few days that we are in a holy war. We are in a spiritual war for the rights and minds of men. Okay, let's listen to this.
Conservatives have.
Okay, content warning, and I may or may not still be on YouTube after this. We'll see. But I mean, apparently Destiny's got a bunch of followers. Destiny can do all this, so I'm assuming that I could be able to play this as Destiny has a YouTube platform, correct? Right? He's on Twitch, right? He can do all these things, so I should be able to play it, right? YouTube, are you listening?
Conservatives have been disgusting for years, which is why I don't give a fuck about anybody that winds up at any of these rallies and gets shot or whatever the fuck, okay? Because they had no problem making fun of Paul Pelosi. The entire world would be better off if these people were permanently removed from these platforms. Like, there is no downside and only upside to see people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Tim Pool never be allowed to publicly broadcast their opinions ever again.
What an evil, disgusting, sniveling scumbag shit stick of a human. What a goblin. Absolute garbage human. Okay? Hot take, free speech, go for it. But that is arguably a direct incitement to violence, asking people to commit said incitements on named persons in that conversation that he just explicitly said. Okay? I do not condone that behavior. We do not condone hate speech. Excuse me. Let me correct that. Hate speech does exist. Hate speech is free speech. Any type of speech is free speech. However, when you are inciting direct incitement to violence or committing acts of harm inflicting against another human, especially on platforms such as yours, Destiny, Steven, okay? We don't play that game around here. Yeah. As a small government guy, I see why labeling Antifa as a domestic terrorist can be a slippery slope to more authoritarian control. I 100% see it. We're going to get into it. The thing is, Antifa is a radical, anti-government, militarized terror cell group inside of America. They need to be put in check. I will stand by that. I've been around rallies. I have been in the fray of these people in the Denver metro area over the last 15 years. I have seen how and heard how these Antifa operatives operate. They do not care about anything. They don't care who's in office. They want to see Western society collapse. They only want a violent uprising and a revolution. They want the system brought to the ground. They don't care about left or right. They are evil. They're fundamentally, they think the system is so broken that they would rather see a violent insurgent uprising to overthrow the system in their quote unquote communist utopia. Well, you know who lines up first in the communist utopia? The ones allowing it to happen in the first place, folks. It's not enough to be passively not communist. We must be actively anti-communist. I'm never going to call myself an anti-comma or anti-commune. I don't know. I'm not going to shorten the fucking name like they did. Antifa, right? I gotta show you this. Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait. Okay. So, Hilarious. This is all about the free speech conversation we're having, okay, folks? Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me. We're going to be wrapping up here in the next 15 minutes or so. I am going to bring it all home here. But Hillary Clinton, in America, we defend free speech in terrible times. We defend free speech even when it's offensive. We defend free speech. Says the bitch who fucking blocks the account. Blocks the comments on the fucking post. You know that she'd be getting ratioed so hard right now. Listen to this. Should we even listen to this witch? Should we even listen to this cretin speak? Let's see what she has to say.
When you look at the Jimmy Kimmel suspension, do you think is it state censorship?
Well, I think this is a very clear example of
it's not state censorship.
The power of the state to suppress speech. It is a direct
we just had this
government action to try to intimidate employers, organizations, corporations, much of which we've already seen, to remove an...
Incorrect, stupid bitch. You are thumbs down in the chat for Hillary Clinton. I'm okay to see that. F's in the chat for Hillary. She needs to just go crawl back under the rock wherever she came out of and just stay there. Stay there until her husk of a human form decomposes into the soil around her. Okay? Freedom of speech is important to know who three monsters are. Check out Data Republican on X. Oh, yeah, I follow Data Republican. They're crushing it all the time. Yep. Merlin, you are absolutely correct. Data Republican's on it. Yeah. Following up with this, I'm gonna push through my timeline here real quick, and then we'll go to the full circle about the Antifa militants, the extremist groups here, and have a conversation about that. But I'm pushing through my timeline right now because this is what we do. Because bringing it back close to home, Governor Jared Polis, governor of Colorado over here, posting, the First Amendment is the foundation of our democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, you big bag shit. Big old bag of shit. We are a constitutional republic, not a democracy. The First Amendment is the foundation of our democracy. Protecting free speech, a free press, and the right to assemble is who we are as Americans. These freedoms are not partisan, they are American. We must safeguard our freedoms every day, says Governor Polis, who signed into law HB 1312, the bill this session that defined misgendering as hate speech and compelled speech for all people in Colorado. You have to address people by their preferred pronouns, or you are considered misgendering, and that would be a punishable offense in Colorado. Yeah, he violated millions of Coloradans' First Amendment rights. Okay? He violated our right. Not only that, that was the First Amendment. Him compelling First Amendment speech and misgendering laws into Colorado legislature. He also is the one who passed the most absurd and Orwellian, tyrannical Second Amendment laws. Okay? The Second Amendment does not grant the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment denies the government the authority to infringe upon our rights to bear arms. Okay? The First Amendment is just as important as the Second Amendment. And he infringes on both of those every goddamn day he sits in office. Governor Polis is a sniveling little scumbag. Okay? I said this is so rich and lathered in irony. He signed HB 1312. Okay? What a scumbag. Some more information about Colorado. We're going to be moving up here. Senator John Fetterman, the Democratic voice of sanity and reason. He posted this on Saturday. Tomorrow, Charlie Kirk will be laid to rest. Let the people grieve and give them space. Like, we're living in such wild times that the Democrat senator who suffered a stroke is the voice of reason for the Democrat Party. Is that like peak level irony or big brain? Like, I don't even know what do you call that? Maybe this stroke kind of like gave him a proper proper rewiring of it. I mean, to be fair, I know a lot of people in Pennsylvania, they said he still votes. He still votes down party line. He still votes for all the same commie bullshit. He might speak and say good things, but I do hear that he still votes for all the commie shit anyways. I don't follow his voting record, but from what I hear, from what he says, it looks like he has at least some sense of reason, right? Ironic. Okay, now we are going to get into this little disgusting human. Yeah, this is my live stream now. Okay. So Lorena Garcia, folks. Lorena Garcia, state of Colorado, state house representative, okay? So as soon as Trump announced that Antifa was a domestic terror group, Lorena Garcia, who is a card-carrying member of the Democrat Socialists of America, the DSA, she works with the DSA and the PSL, the what is it? I have to find it here. The Party for Socialism and Liberation. Okay, she is. I have to find it here. Yes, Party for Socialism and Liberation. She works with this group as well as the Democrat Socialists of America. She is, by all intents and purposes, an abject, open to the public communist. She stands with Antifa. She says herself, self-proclaimed, I am Antifa. Okay? They call themselves Antifa, and it empowers them to think that they are the superheroes of their own story. They are the superheroes of their own narrative. They're living the truth. They are the main character of their story, fighting the fascists, right? They're fighting the fascists. They call anything that opposes their worldview fascists, okay? If you drive a diesel truck, you're a fascist. If you're over 6 foot tall, you're a fascist. They can label whatever they want fascist to then claim themselves as the Antifa. They are anti-fascist, right? This is how their Orwellian doublespeak, Orwellian linguistic gymnastics happens, right? They call anything that opposes their worldview fascist. So in their delusion, they feel like the heroes of their own imaginary story, when in reality, they are destroying Western society. They want to see society burn. Okay? Lorena Garcia, the communist, she's House District 35 here in the state of Colorado. She stands there proudly. I protested the bitch when she was doing a public town hall. I shouted out to her. I said, "You guys are all fucking liars. You guys are all liars, pulling the wool over our eyes in Colorado." And everyone there was over the age of fucking 60, almost 70. Okay, bunch of blue hairs in this fucking place. She is. There's no young people, because the young people are just checked out. They're either checked out or they want to see the world burn. Right? That's my 2 cents on it. But yeah, and the thing is, Lorena Garcia doesn't post on X because she's resorted to falling back to Blue Sky. She posts all this shit on Blue Sky, okay? I am Antifa. Still true, okay? Colorado Duke. At this point, the evil demon is still trolling the good people of Colorado, right? She has a page, okay? She has a page. She's on here, right? This little scumbag. Representative for HD35 in Colorado. Yeah, screw you, Lorena. She is such an evil, disgusting human when it comes to the laws that she represents, the laws that she hold on, right here. Look at right here. I have it right here pulled on my other screen. Okay? Protect civil rights, immigration status. She's a prime sponsor of this bill that was passed this legislative session with Julie Gonzalez, Senadora Gonzalez, Mike Weissman, the little cuckubus as well. Okay, Elizabeth Velasco. Okay, concerning measures to prevent the violation of civil rights of persons in Colorado based on immigration status and in connection therewith reducing an appropriation. Basically, this law was making sure that illegal immigrants had rights in Colorado. I go, no. Under current this bill, to be fair, this bill was passed, but when this bill was written, Under current law, a person who does not have lawful immigration status must submit an affidavit stating that they have either applied for lawful presence. Basically, this law was circumventing the current state law about immigration status to protect illegal immigrants. They were writing laws in Colorado to protect illegal immigrants who do not belong here. This is how much this person, this evil scumbag, Lorena Garcia, thinks of Colorado constituents. She writes laws actively defending non-Colorado residents. Okay? She stands with Antifa, though, right? She is Antifa, right? Listen, okay, I got a video from Antifa from a few years ago. Okay? Where is it? Hold on, let me find it here. Listen to this shit. This is from 2021 or 2019. Okay? Years ago. Antifa's been around here for years doing this shit. They don't want a better society. They want to destroy what we have built. They want to destroy Western society as they see fit. Okay? From the post-millennial, June 19th, 2021, 3 years ago, Antifa militants attacked pedestrians, shut down streets outside of Denver Conservative Conference. Years ago. Okay? Andy No posting this.
I give you guys the right to go Really? Really?
I can point out that.
See, they just call everything Nazis. She's pissed because she couldn't fucking drive through traffic.
Hey, if you touch one, you're gonna get touched by every last one of these motherfuckers.
See? It's outside of the convention center.
Where's the balls at?
Hey,
come on.
If we got a problem, you can settle it calmly.
No,
listen.
Calm down.
Hey, don't yell at me. I ain't do shit.
Like this is the chaos that we're fucking dealing with. Denver, violence broke out of the Antifa protest outside of the Western Conservative Conference. Video by Emily Larson. This was 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. Okay, 16th Street Mall. Okay? Antifa is a violent insurgent group here in America. Okay? But yeah, this is a prime example, okay? Antifa violently confronted a purported attendee of the Western Conservative Conference downtown Denver. Antifa gathered and waited for attendees who were leaving the Hyatt Regency. I'm speaking there. Video by a laser show. Years ago. Okay? Look at these guys. See how radical this is how you have to call a spade.
Back inside, loser.
When you see these people actively fighting against people who are using our First Amendment.
Back inside. You're a great talker. What the fuck is that? A fucking rep?
Look at him. That's immediate defend myself. You're done. You're done, bitch. Fuck you, dude.
Your man came over here and fucked with him. So what your man is shut the fuck up. Just continue on. Continue on. You guys got important shit to do. Go.
Yeah, you guys got important shit to do. Yeah, right. You got a bunch of fucking look at these scumbags. Look at what they do. Block streets, get angry, get pissed off. They're more than just bullies, Merlin. They're more than just bullies. They're coordinated and attacked. They are funded, and this is the biggest thing that we have to address. It is not, okay? Take a beat. I'm going to take a beat. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to bring the temperature down, folks. I'm going to bring the temperature down. I'm going to be landing this plane here in a minute, okay? I'm going to be landing this plane. But this is the biggest thing, is that when Trump called, let me just do it right here. White House, did he make did he make an EO on Antifa, okay? Yes, he did, okay? I'll pull it up in a second. But this is the most important thing, and we'll bring it up here in just a second when we're all said and done. Look at my hair. It's just getting so wild, bro. It's getting wild, man. Call these people whatever you wish. Name them terrorists, domestic terrorists. Opens up a war chest of options that they can use for surveillance state. I mean, we're already in a massive surveillance state because of the Patriot Act. We're already with the DHS and the NSA. They are spying on us every single day, no matter what. So when my activist friends and my people who don't want to participate say, "Oh, it's a slippery slope," I see the slippery slope, folks. I see the slippery slope, and what it comes down to is when Trump speaks about funding the operation, we need to follow the money and follow it up. And who is funding these extremists in our country? Whether it's the Democrat Socialists of America, whether it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation, whether it's Antifa, however you find this money, and yeah, we can always follow through with the George Soros and the Alexander Soros, and you got China money, but finding the money that promotes and networks these people to the organizations to incite the riots, to incite the act of violence. This is what we need to do, and we need to cut the funding off, bringing it all the way back to U.S. aid, bringing it all the way back up to what DOJ was trying to do, whether it was inside of the government, how government itself was funding these small little revolution bubbles happening across the country. This is the argument that needs to be had. Where is the money coming from? Okay? I'm going to find the line right here. Designated Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, okay? Antifa as a terrorist threat. So should I do my Trump voice for this? Antifa is a militarist, anarchist enterprise that explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States government, law enforcement authorities, and our system of law. It uses illegal means to organize and execute campaign of violence and terrorism nationwide to accomplish these goals. This campaign involves coordinated efforts to obstruct enforcement of federal law through armed standoffs with law enforcement, organized riots, assaults, violent assaults on immigration and custom enforcement. See, this all ties together, right? All ties together with the larger theme of stopping the government from doing its job. You never see Antifa when there's Democrats putting laws out. Interesting, right? So he designates them, but I'm trying to find Control F. Let's see. Funding, okay? That's it. Finding the funding, okay? Antifa recruits and trains and radicalizes young Americans to engage in this violence and suppression of political activity, then employs elaborate means and mechanisms to shield the identities of its operatives, conceals its funding sources and operations in an effort to frustrate law enforcement and recruit additional members. Individuals associated with and acting on behalf of Antifa further coordinate with other organizations and entities for the purpose of spreading, fomenting, and advancing political violence and suppressing lawful political speech. This organized effort designed to achieve policy objectives by coercion and intimidation is domestic terrorism. Okay? It's textbook Yuri Bezmenov's discussion on how the destruction of the country would take place through subversion, through what is it? It's my gosh, it's demoralization and destabilization, subversion tactics, and then revolution. Okay, this is how it takes place. That we are seeing it take place right now. Okay, designating them as a domestic terrorist organization because of the aforementioned pattern of political violence designed to suppress law, political activity, and obstruction through rule of law. I hereby designate Antifa as domestic terrorist organization. All relevant executive departments and agencies shall utilize the applicable authorities to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle any and all illegal operations. Keyword: illegal operations, especially those involving terrorist actions conducted by Antifa or any person claiming on behalf. Do you guys remember when They did a firebombing of the St. George Church across the street from the Capitol. Do you remember May 29th, 2020? Was it 2020, right? Or was it 2021? No, it was 2020 because Trump was in office. But yeah, 2019. I don't know. It was during the summer of love. I'm pretty sure. But this is they firebombed the St. George Church. They burned shit down. The whole summer of love. All of this in the name of George Floyd. All this in the name of fighting the fascists, fighting the police insurgent. Like, this is a common thread, folks. Okay? It's all here. They've been around for a very long time, and I'm not justifying the use of the Department of Justice. I'm saying it's always been there. The apparatus has always been established against us. Okay? And to call a spade, to call these radical extremists what exactly that they are, is nothing new. It's just allowing and employing our government to do what is necessary within the realm of law, within the realm of legal response to these extremist behaviors. Okay? Then you get this. Okay? This is the opinion piece, right? This is an opinion piece written by. I mean, all this shit was written by the ADL. All this shit was established, and this is when I kind of try to balance the argument, balance the narrative, because when you have a government that labels Antifa domestic terrorist, you end up getting a slippery slope argument to saying anything can be called domestic terrorist now, if the other party gets involved. If you get extremist government that calls other extremists who are in opposition to this government, do this governmental body, then they can start instituting anybody to be a domestic terrorist. No different than when I say transgender people should have Second Amendment rights and we should not abridge their Second Amendment because they are transgender persons. That is going to enact a slippery slope against all Second Amendment rights. It all follows suit. My logic is consistent. My logic is sound, and I'm trying to let you know that I do not support when we start falling down this rabbit hole of calling this person a threat, this person a threat, and then the government can be used to weaponize against it. I don't like it. However, when we're seeing active insurgents, we're seeing active insurgents such as Antifa on the streets, okay? Now compare what we just saw with Antifa and this radical extremist and these violent uprisings that we just saw in these videos here through Andy No, okay? The Antifa flyer in Denver Communist. I mean, like, it's all been here, okay? It's all a thing, okay? Nothing new. Okay? When we see this these are the examples. Now we look at Westward. The SPLC, okay? First of all, the SPLC is garbage. SPLC and the ADL, they're all leftist funded shit groups, okay? These are the people. This is, as per the SPLC, these are extremist groups in Colorado, okay? Family Research Institute. Okay? These are anti-LGBTQ hate groups. This is a radical group, okay? This is why it's ridiculous. And I'm trying to bring light to this situation because this is showing the ridiculousness. It's not hypocrisy, it's absurdity, right? When they have this is what the left calls extreme groups, okay? Extremist groups. Okay? The Pray in Jesus' Name Project, because they are anti-LGBT, okay? These are labeled as extremist groups because, quote, the opposition to LGBTQ rights or support of homophobia and heterosexism and or cisnormativity is often expressed through demonizing rhetoric and grounded in harmful pseudoscience that portrays LGBTQ people as threats to children, society, and often public health. This is why they're labeled as an extremist hate group, okay? Bullshit. Sorry I believe in two genders. Sorry that I believe in the nuclear family and that a man and a woman should have children and reproduce. And we should have a fruitful and beneficial life that doesn't promote debauchery and hedonistic subcultures. Sorry. That's where I stand. Thumbs up in the chat if you agree. Okay. Christian identity, hate general. Okay. These are people that the left are calling extremists. Okay. Proud Boys are neo-Nazi. No, the Proud Boys are the Proud Boys is a fraternity club. Okay. National Socialist Resistance Front. Okay. Neo-Valshish. I can't even. It's folkish. I don't know. Born out of an atavistic defiance of modernity and rationalism, present-day neo-Valkish or folkish adherent groups have organized around ethnocentricity. I mean, it sounds like it's a white nationalist group, right? Sounds like it's a white nationalist group. And you know what? I'm not opposed to, like, if there's any identitarian groups that get together, they can get together as long as they are enclaves that are not espouting violence and hatred and actively. That's what I said in my beginning of the live stream. The actions that people take are how we judge them, right? The words are one thing. Speaking, people think the earth is flat. There's flat earth communities all around the world. There's people that think that humans rode dinosaurs. Is that hate speech? Is that evil? Because is that dangerous pseudoscience? Should we ban people from saying that? That's First Amendment rights right there. But as soon as you're going to act on it, if you start acting on it and curtailing people's if you were going the non-aggression principle, right? That's where I stand. The non-aggression principle. As soon as you start infringing on my rights as a sovereign individual, that's when we're going to have a problem, right? Whether it's freedom of movement, freedom of travel, these things, right? Anti-government groups. So anti-government groups are hate groups, right? As opposed to, this is a Westword article using the SPLC as evidence, okay? The Colorado Eagle Forum, Colorado Parents Involved in the Colorado Parents Involved in Education is an anti-government group, which is a radical group. Oh no, someone sound the alarm. These are extremist groups still active in Colorado as of January 2025. The Colorado Parents Involved in Education. Anti-government groups are part of the anti-democratic hard right movement. This ties back into ADL and how they tie in prison riots as right-wing extremism. This is how the failure to label themselves as what it means, the pure definition. They are using, they have three different definitions of what it means to be right-wing extremism. Okay? They believe the federal government is tyrannical. They traffic in conspiracy theories about an illegitimate government of leftist elites seeking a, quote, new world order. Folks, what? Do you see how stupid this is? Freedom First Society in Colorado Springs. Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty is an extremist group. Do you see how stupid this is? And I had to bring in my boys. We Are Change. We Are Change. We're an extremist group. Shout out to my boys in We Are Change. Okay? Chapters in Denver and Walsenburg. Yeah, We Are Change. Call us an anti-government group, okay? But this is illegitimate government of leftist elites seeking a new world order. Please show me where it's illegitimate. Please show me where I'm wrong. Because I'll tell you what, we're seeing it unfold every day. Whether it's with the Agenda 2030 nerds, the World Economic Forum, these rainbow butthole sustainable development groups, okay? These NGOs that are being funded, okay? The Party for Socialism and Liberation, a far leftist group that are funding active overthrows happening right now in America, funneling and funding these people, okay? I'm sick of it. It's not an extremist. We're not extremists, and we're calling when we call a spade a spade. Okay? This is a hilarious list, by the way. I use this list specifically because We Are Change is on it, and I'm associated with We Are Change. We Are Change Colorado. We are not, we are very much against government. We are against a tyrannical government. It doesn't matter what side it's on. It's the fact that this Westward article is calling us extremists and tying that back into the Antifa conversation, comparing and contrasting what we see right here, right now with Antifa, and how Donald Trump and the White House is calling Antifa a left-wing domestic terrorist organization. Okay? Antifa is a militarist, anarchist enterprise that explicitly calls for an overthrow of the United States government. Okay? I don't like the fact that they use anarchist because anarchist is the lack of government, but they're using it correctly. But I don't like using, because I see anarchy as a lack of government. These Antifa is a militarist anarchist, meaning that they want a violent insurgent uprising to government. They don't want government, like I showed you in the original segue of this video. Okay, this is Antifa chanting. This is their chant. Okay, coming from their own mouth. Black bloc tankies, black bloc with shields, helmets, batons, flags. They use all means necessary to instill their violent uprising of a destruction of government. Okay? I don't want big government, but I want reasonable government. I want limited government. I want government that represents the people. I want my representatives to actually be funded honestly through real, honest means, okay? I don't want them to be funded through the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I don't want them to be funded by extremists. I don't want them to be funded through their NGO groups like Lorena Garcia is, okay? Lorena Garcia, the paperwork. We got the fucking receipts right here from government grifters, okay? Lorena Garcia is on a board member for a nonprofit called Elephant Circle, who are funded in part by taxpayer money. In 2023, they decided to use that money to assume the debts of a company board member. Is this an appropriate use of our tax money? Okay? Through their tax filings, they filed almost a $70,000 loan. Our tax money funded through an NGO that Lorena Garcia is on a board member of. Lorena Garcia is the same one who says that she is Antifa. Do you see how I'm operating? Do you see how my Charlie red string is pulling? Okay, I'm moving all the pieces. Okay. Lorena Garcia works through NGOs, uses our government, our taxpayer money funded through NGOs to fund her campaign, to fund her side projects, tertiary groups, through other NGOs who she's board membering of, who she's getting approved through. Okay. Okay. Look at right here. Okay, Lorena Garcia, she's the chair of this elephant project, okay? It says here they didn't have any appropriation of funding, but they funded someone else. Okay, where is it? The grant in the amount of $106,000. We paid a mother's choice. This included assumed responsibility for a loan owed by a mother's choice of $70,000 to support its charitable work. Okay, our board, our elected officials. Okay, this is the receipt. This is the receipts right here. Okay, NGOs are always the leftist workaround. They use NGOs to funnel their fucking programs. We got to call them out. Okay, this website here is fantastic. It's the newtolerancecampaign.org hate map, okay? The home, okay? New Tolerance Campaign is a watchdog organization mobilizing Americans to confront intolerant double standards by establishment institutions, civil rights groups, universities, and socially conscious brands. NTC action campaigns empower ordinary Americans to hold accountable self-proclaimed arbiters of tolerance when they betray their own stated values, okay? The New Tolerance Campaign tracks hate and hard left extremism in the United States today. Our work is designed to be used as a resource to the media, civil servants, and the general public. This is the kind of website, this is the kind of networking that we have to support and work with, okay? Nationwide, you can find this. Anyone can be looking for this themselves, okay? The hate map, coast to coast, okay? You can see all the different groups that work through. different leftist and radical ideology groups. Okay? It's all listed here. Okay? And we're going to go specifically in Colorado. Okay, we're going to zoom in, but you can find your own little network, your own little bubble. But you've got the Party for Socialism and Liberation out of Aurora, the Colorado Palestine Coalition. You got a couple different named people. The Denver Communists. Okay, Denver Communist website features a picture depicting Hamas terrorists. I mean, it's just a mark. It just marks different groups, right? Cooper Joe Frederick. 24-year-old Frederick was allegedly firebombing a Tesla dealership. So it just marks radical leftist extremism. So I would love to be a contributing effort to this if and when I find things in my area, in my network. Okay. Let's see what Mayak Alec McKinney. Yeah, that's beautiful. Lucky you. I mean, at least it's clean to the report to the fact that nothing's been reported. I'm sure there's still little terror cells in and amongst every goddamn state. McKinney is a transgender individual who is one of the students responsible for carrying out a pew-pewing at the STEM school in Highlands Ranch in May 2019. During the shooting, one of the students was killed and 8 others were injured. McKinney is also sentenced to life in prison for the crimes committed. Okay? Transgender individual in 2019 in the STEM school, okay? And that STEM school shooting in Colorado spawned all of the recent rash of gun control legislation here in Colorado, okay? Interesting how it's always a transgender individual, okay? Heidi Beadle, another transgender individual and journalist who called for violence against political adversaries. Beadle wrote a number of tweets endorsing violence, such as, quote, "Do I support violence? Yes. Fuck 'em." Beadle is the founder of the Colorado Springs Anti-Fascist Profile, which allegedly deliver instructions to assault specific individuals. Beadle is unashamed of such posts, saying she is, quote, "proud of her demands for violence." Okay? So interesting how these various different leftist cultist groups are always merged together. They're always zippered together. Whether it's transgender, whether it's socialism, whether it's communism, you got leftists, you got Antifa, you got all these people always falling in suit together. Isn't that interesting, right? So I recommend everyone at their own accord, you can jump on the New Tolerance campaign and you can follow them at all their socials. But this is a great way to stay in network and involved with your area around here to see how these groups network. Okay, you got Youth Liberation Front. They always use these names like liberation and socialism and labor. And they're all these leftist buzzwords, right? Justice for Palestine, Trans Resistance Network, okay? Party for Socialism and Liberation, nationwide, okay? Party for Socialism and Liberation. So much. Youth Liberation Front, Oregon, Antifa, okay? This is what we need to stay abreast to. We need to stay aware and stay abreast to this. This is a great website and it's a great resource for anyone interested in staying in the know, okay? Yeah, so with that being said, folks, we are going to be wrapping up here. It is just after 6 o'clock here in the Mountain Time Zone. I appreciate everyone jumping here and being a part of it. If you wanted to support the work, breakthechains.media is the website. Realm Walker Hot Sauce is the hot sauce. I just think that we have to be aware, we have to be conscious, and we have to understand that government language, government linguistics are important, but showing the facts and showing what's available, showing the present danger in our current society. Okay? Okay? Listen. George Washington. Never forget, I did not grant your freedom to you. Your freedom was given to you at birth by your Creator. The government's job is to acknowledge it and preserve that freedom, which is already yours naturally. Thumbs up in the chat for George fucking Washington, folks. That's the real truth right there, man. That's what we have to stand with. It is the responsibility of the government to preserve our given rights, not to grant us said rights. The government doesn't grant us shit. Okay? It's been a busy week, folks. I'm wrapping up with some memes here on the last little leg of it. I am going to be transitioning over to the Beanie Cast, the Beanie Compound over here. I know they are just kicking off with the live stream. But, folks, if you enjoy this kind of conversation, if you enjoy this kind of work, I obviously speak a little bit more specific to Colorado conversations. But I think all of it's important because national news blends in with state news, right? We can tie it all together, right? I brought in you direct evidence of Antifa in Colorado from years ago. So what Trump is saying right now is nothing new. It's nothing shocking. And to all of my little hippy-dippy government's always the problem, I don't vote, bitch-ass friends who think that if we just stand on the sidelines and do nothing, that we just have to hippy-dippy our way out of it, and the government's going to, if we just all stand together, we all just don't vote, we all just be better people, the government's going to do, the government's going to, we'll show the government. No, bitch. And this is my biggest conversation because all my friends are like, the government instituting Antifa as domestic terrorists is bad. I go, I agree, but it's valid. The government saying this and instigating it as a domestic terror group is a slippery slope. I'm not disagreeing, but the government has to do something. The government needs to keep these radical extremists in check, whether it's left or right. We can't have a civil debate. We can't have a conversation. People get shot and killed and assassinated for flexing their First Amendment rights because domestic terrorists and extremists are radicalized to believe that it's better to shoot someone than to speak to someone. That's the problem that we're dealing with right now, folks. So I will not sit idly by, and I will not sit by while the radical leftist Antifa and extremists run roughshod over our constitutional republic. Excuse me. I'm just, we can't just sit back and say, we're just not going to participate. We're just going to be violent, or we're going to be passive. We're not going to vote. We're just going to be pacifists and let everything mull over on its own. Well, guess what, bitch? The government's going to do it anyways. The government's going to do whatever they want, regardless of you showing up to vote or not. So I would rather be actively involved and engaged in the political discourse of our future, of the generation of our future, of how we will push forward in our constitutional republic, in our governmental process. I want to be actively involved in that process rather than just sit back on the sidelines and say everything will just work out how it's supposed to because the government's going to be corrupt anyways. No, we have to get that out of our mindset. Get that out of our mindset and be actively involved in changing our government for the better. Like, to sit back on the sidelines and say, well, government sucks, I'm not going to participate. That's a pussy-ass cop-out. You're a weak-ass, spineless individual just going to sit there on Bitcoin Beach smoking your fucking reefer and just saying, oh, man, I'm not going to participate in a government system. Change the fucking system. If you acknowledge that it's a corrupt system, get involved and fucking change it. Sorry, I'm just on a little fucking tear right now, but that's how I see it. But I am gonna be wrapping up here, folks. I know I just went off on a little. Hey, Merlin Marvel, thank you so much. Hope to see you on another stream. Appreciate you jumping into it, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Merlin Marvel. Thank you, Casual Gaming. I am going to be jumping and starting this raid here to the Beanie Compound. Folks, I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I appreciate all of you guys following. I appreciate everything here on Break the Chains Media. Tyranny Response Tuesday is going to be tomorrow, so I will be doing more of this conversation and calling out the pacifists, all these little hippy dippies that are just going to say, well, government's always bad. I go, no shit. Well, get involved and change it. Get involved and do something about it. You don't like government? Well, then you better get involved with it, because it's going to keep happening anyway. The churning is the gears are going to keep fucking rolling. Do you want to get rolled over? I don't want to get rolled over. Folks, I appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of Break the Chains Media. And as always, fight for freedom and never give up.